covering climate, weather, and the industrial enterprise from Penn State Meteorology. Here is Up in the Air.
Welcome back to the first episode of Up in the Air in 2020. I'm student meteorologist Ryan Phillips, and I'd like to introduce a new member, Nick Guzzo.
Hello everyone, I'm student meteorologist Nick Guzzo. I'm a junior here at Penn State and I'm majoring in meteorology and would one day love to be broadcasting, and I'm just so excited to be part of such a great show, Ryan.
Absolutely, we've got some exciting stories and features, but first, let's talk about Update in the Air.
Disastrous weather conditions have plagued parts of Pakistan and Afghanistan for days, which unfortunately resulted in a large loss of life. Heavy snow hammering the areas tapered off on January 14th, but the effects had already been felt. The Neelam Valley experienced the worst impacts from the wintry weather and is typically no stranger to the dangerous weather. But this specific event caused landslides and avalanches that racked up one of the highest death tolls in recent years. As of right now, Pakistan's Minister for Disaster Management reported that 76 people have been killed in Neelam Valley, and 45 others died in parts of Pakistan's eastern and southwestern provinces. Most routes into the valley remain blocked off and have caused difficulty with rescue operations, so helicopters are being used. Afghanistan had 39 people killed from landslides and flooding associated with the heavy snowfall. The death toll reached 160 people total. Hundreds of homes were destroyed from the landslides and avalanches in both countries. Conditions have now improved in these areas, but people still remain trapped in their homes following this horrific event.
Australian-born fire-generated thunderstorms circumnavigated the globe this past week, leaving beautiful sunsets, poor air quality, and caramelized glaciers in its wake. Satellites tracked the path of these pyrocumulonimbus clouds, the origin of which were due to deadly Australian bushfires. We'll have more details on this later in the show. As these clouds traveled to New Zealand, the mountainous glaciers became heavily tinted brown due to dust fallout. Due to the glaciers now having a lower albedo, which is a lower reflectivity of solar radiation, scientists expect that New Zealand's glaciers will melt 20 to 30% more than normal this season. Finally, these dusty clouds traveled all the way into South America and then further into Australia, reducing air quality yet providing awe-striking sunsets as well. The air quality was so bad that professional tennis player Dalila Jakupovic collapsed during a match at the Australian Open.
On January 12th, a quiet mountain quickly changed to a fountain of lava. Steam, lava, and ash have all been the common sight recently on the island of Luzon, Philippines, as the Taal Volcano continues to erupt. The Global Volcanoism Program at the Smithsonian Institute said the volcano had frequent activity from the mid-1960s to 1977, but has remained silent until it awoke from its 43-year-long slumber on January 12th. Now, thousands of the people on the island have been forced to evacuate and are wearing face masks to prevent exposure to the ash and sulfur dioxide being released by the volcano. Around 450,000 people could be impacted by the volcano, and the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology have evacuated a 9-mile radius around the volcano. The Taal Volcano is surrounded by a lake, so a sudden large eruption could cause a tsunami to impact the nearby villages. Over 144 earthquakes have accompanied this eruption, and many fear the worst volcanic activity has yet to actually happen.
Imagine if, in a few months' time period, that the entire state of West Virginia will burn from bushfires. It's an unfortunate reality that bushfires have already burned this equated amount of acres in Australia. Over 15 million acres have burned, which is around 7 times more acres burned than Californian wildfires in the past 2 years. The most concentrated amount of fires is near the capital, Sydney, which climatologically favors even more ash to soar in the future. These catastrophic and deadly Australian fires stem from dangerous droughts and sizzling heat waves. This past December proved to be the driest and hottest Australian December on record at a whopping 5.8 degrees Fahrenheit above average. In over a century's years of record keeping, 2019 was the driest and hottest year ever. In all, this prolonged weather pattern has and will continue to set up the recipe for one of the worst disasters in the country's existence.
Imagine taking a walk along a beautiful West Coast beach and stumbling across miles of washed up common dead mers. This has been the experience for many people in 2014 to 2016 that were living on the U.S. West Coast. The study done in the Plus One journal showed that over 1 million common mers were estimated to have washed up on shore between 2014 and 2016. Sea lions, baleen whales, tufted puffins, and Kassan auklets all experienced mass die-offs as well. Ocean temperatures continue to rise as each year has passed and has been identified as the cause for these species of animals to have a sudden period of decreased population. Scientists have named climate change as the contender for the rising ocean temperatures. The common mers are a durable bird, so biologists were alarmed with the number of deaths associated with the species. After plenty of investigation, John Pyatt, a biologist from the U.S. Geological Survey, found the warmer waters caused food sources to be lessened and that the competition for the fish that the bird eats increased. Researchers believe the instances of mass species die-offs are a warning of what the future will be like with climate change.
87% out of 244 American cities experienced the warmest decade on record, as 2019 marked the end of the warmest decade as a whole, but with a cost. Another year has passed for the 5th straight time with at least $10 billion weather disasters and climate disasters. Amongst these were hurricanes, flash floods, and raging wildfires. Temperature-wise, 2019 itself wasn't nearly as warm as we've seen in the past few years, but 3 states still broke record warmest years. Much of the Southeast, the Mid-Atlantic, and Alaska contained well above average temperatures, while the rest of the country was much more marginal. Right here in State College, decade average temperatures rose nearly 2.5 degrees from the 1980s to this past decade. It's a troubling trend we all cannot ignore, as warmer and more extreme weather events are undoubtedly increasing.
Now we have a feature from Logan Williams about the American Meteorological Society.
Last week, thousands of meteorologists, including myself, converged on Boston, Massachusetts for the annual meeting of the American Meteorological Society. The AMS was founded in 1919 and celebrated its centennial with an abundance of presentations regarding the history of meteorology, the current state of research, and research opportunities going forward. At this year's conference, lectures spanned a wide range of detail, with some focusing heavy on the science, while others explored more so the ideas of how to best communicate that science. A great example of a detailed scientific presentation given was by Valerie Masson on meteorological forecasting systems at small resolutions that will be developed for urban areas during the 2024 Olympic Games in Paris, France. Presentations that focused on the communication side include those by Bernadette Woods-Plackey on how to best communicate the story of our changing climate, and by Dr. Marshall Shepard on attributing extreme weather events to climate change and how to best handle frequently asked questions regarding this linkage. This centennial conference also had a newfound focus on the social science aspect of meteorology and the impact of psychological and sociological factors on meteorologists and the public. Some great talks in this regard were given with respect to how people react to flash flood warnings and tornado warnings being issued at the same time, and how the public engages with the color-coded advisory system. These were only a handful of talks given because through the course of the 6-day conference, hundreds of presenters shared their research on the wide array of topics relating to meteorology and climate. This conference proved that meteorology and climate research is very important to not only weather geeks, but to many different types of people across the world in all aspects of life. From Up in the Air, I'm Logan Williams.
Welcome back to the show. Well, these past couple weeks we experienced some above normal temperatures, but Ryan, this week we started to feel a little bit more seasonable.
Absolutely. It doesn't really seem seasonable because early on this winter we really saw some warm conditions, but really this air mass is more seasonal for this time of year. Zach, what do you expect for the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, guys, we most certainly saw some higher temperatures than what we saw over the past few weeks. We're now transitioning our way into deeper winter, and we're going to be seeing some more seasonal conditions, especially what we saw this past week. Now, sitting, guys, average high values for January 23rd, our average high value is 34 degrees, and our average low value is 20 degrees. Now, our record values, this was set back in 1906 of a record high value of 66 degrees and a record low value of negative 14 degrees, pretty chilly, back in 1936. Now, guys, looking at the temperature outlook, this is valid January 27th through February 2nd. We're seeing a little bit of duality with some abnormalities for us here. We're sitting here in the Central Plains up into the northern portions of the continental United States. We're sitting at the high chance of above normal temperatures. Now, another thing that we haven't seen too often is this above normal temperature values that we're seeing in the Pacific Northwest. Down here into the Four Corners, we're seeing some below normal temperatures for them down there. And then looking into Florida, normally we've been sitting at above normal temperatures here. Now we're sitting at a small chance for below normal temperatures for them down in Florida. And now up into the Northeast and in our neck of the woods, we're sitting right on the cusp of seeing a small chance of above normal temperature values. And now again, looking at the precipitation outlook, again, more duality again. As you look into the Pacific Northwest, a high chance of above normal precipitation values for them out in the Pacific Northwest. Down here into the southeast portion of the state, we're sitting at the high chance of below normal precip values. And then transitioning our way up into our neck of the woods, a high chance of above normal precipitation for us here. And now the drought monitor, we have seen some reprieve for us in the drought categories for them. Here we're sitting at the extreme drought category, still here in the Four Corners region, and then still down in Texas we have drought monitors still current. And then here down into the Mississippi and Alabama states, we have seen precipitation work its way through, so that wiped out any of the drought monitor that we were monitoring for them down there. And then here in our neck of the woods, the entire state has received precipitation, and we no longer have any drought monitors present for the state of Pennsylvania. Now the CDC, the snow depth totals, we're seeing as we begin to transition our way into the deeper portions of winter, a lot of the states, and especially up into Canada, have received a lot of snow, especially as we get into the higher mountain regions out in the Pacific Northwest. We're transitioning our way through, seeing a lot of snow, especially as we look into the Idaho, Montana, North and South Dakota, and then as we continue to trek our way into the eastern portion, into the Great Lakes region, we're seeing some high snow depth totals. And then even down here in our neck of the woods, we've had snow, especially last weekend. We still have snow present for us on the ground, and we might be adding to that as we look into the weekend forecast. And then as we continue to transition our way up into the northeast portion of the state, we're still sitting at some greater snow depth totals. Now, as I alluded to earlier, the CDC flu index, we're sitting at widespread flu activity for much of the continental United States. Our only outlier is up in Oregon. So definitely to taking some precautions for the flu, wash your hands before and after eating, and just be cautious, especially if you have come down with anything. Definitely just be on the cautious side. Stay home if you're not feeling well, because you'll be saving a lot of other people's from the sickness. Now, the weekend forecast, it's a little tricky because we might be seeing the chance of seeing all four types of precipitation that's going to be falling from the sky for us here in State College. We're going to be starting off into the warmer part of the day on Saturday. We might be seeing some rain showers work its way through, and then as temperatures will continue to drop below the freezing mark, we might be seeing some freezing rain and sleet, and then transition its way over to snow. And it's the same thing that we'll be seeing for us on Sunday. Wintry mix both Saturday and Sunday. High values of 37 and 39, guys. Travel conditions this weekend might be a bear, so hey, it might be a good idea to catch up on some schoolwork. It might be only 2 weeks into the semester, but I don't know about you, but I can most certainly use those 2 days to catch up on some schoolwork.
Thanks, Zach. Yes, this weekend is definitely looking like a good opportunity, Ryan, to catch up on maybe some schoolwork like Zach said, or even some sleep as we started classes.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like another weekend of winter precipitation. But that's all for this week's episode. Hope you enjoyed it, and tune in for next episode of Up in the Air.